demonia. Use my fangs to murder ya. Yo soy la diosa, los demonios no me controlan. Soy culebra.
What's up, everyone? This is 7 Octoberz. Welcome to another episode of Nightmare on Sedgwick Avenue podcast. This is season 5, episode 11. And today I have a really dope guest. I actually met her at the Latino Film Festival here in San Diego this year. I volunteered for the first year. And I got to meet a lot of really cool creative people, and she was one of them. She's a director, photographer, and just a creative overall. And her name is Nicole Valencia. And let me bring her on the screen here. Hey, Nicole.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. Thank you for taking the time to, get to know you and talk a little bit more about your film.
Totally. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, no problem. And kind of to start it off, I kind of want to ask you, like, what made you fall in love with, like, film overall?
Yeah. Ooh. Well, I think that when I was young, I was really bookish. I had an older sister who just loved reading, and so she was my older sister, so I wanted to copy her. So I just read, I became a reader. Like
Okay.
would read a lot of YA, would read a lot of books. And then we moved to Mexico to Tijuana when I was like around 6 or 7 years old. And so even though I am Mexican American,
Mm-hmm.
English, it's my primary language. So like growing up there was kind of hard just because my Spanish wasn't great at the time. So I think a way that I coped a lot with just like the language barrier at first was
Mm-hmm.
just watching a lot of movies. And so movies were like a family thing. Like, we would always get together on the weekends, me and my family, and go watch like the latest blockbuster. Like we
Yeah.
would, it was just a way of bonding. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
we watched like Gladiator. My dad really liked inspirational sports films. And then of
Okay.
course, like as I learned more about movies and just watching more movies, like I developed my own interests and started kind of being more interested. Blockbuster still existed in Mexico at the time. So like I would go to the little art house section and like, oh, like what's this? Like Wes Anderson movie, like Mom,
Yeah.
Dad, can you rent it for me? Like that kind of stuff. So just
Yeah.
like exploring like film. I just feel like filmmaking and my interest in film, I think it's such an accessible medium for a lot of people. Like I was always really into art and painting and photography, but like films are just so part of like popular culture that
Yeah.
it's just there. And it's, I don't know, I just think it's really accessible. And so I learned more about film, and I studied comp lit, which is comparative literature, in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time I was still watching a lot of like independent cinema and just becoming really interested in it, like Sofia Coppola. And like she was one of my favorite filmmakers. She was a woman, she was like showing like a more female point of view. And so at that time when I was in undergrad, I was like, oh, like maybe I could write like screenplays.
Yeah.
But I never really thought that I would be able to make films. Like it was just something that seemed so like inaccessible to me.
Yeah.
Then eventually like I kind of dipped my toe into production when I was working in fashion, like for this fashion brand.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started meeting people who were shooting photos professionally. And then eventually I was like, wait, okay, so professional photography isn't out of the question. Like maybe filmmaking is not out of the question. So I just
Yeah.
kind of started exploring the production world and like asking people out to coffee and like sending emails and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I would say like the love of film started with just a love of stories and just like healthy escapism with like stories and books,
Yeah.
and then it transferred over to just like another form of like what I think is healthy escapism with films.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I can relate with like the Blockbuster and Hollywood Video and all those things. Like,
Mhm.
it was
Totally.
like you said, it was like a thing to do like on the weekends, like on a Friday, like go and pick out a movie that just came out,
Mhm.
And I kind of feel bad for like this younger generation because they'll never know how that feels. I
I
loved it.
know. Well, I heard a little rumor that Blockbuster was coming back, but like
Yeah,
same. Like I love just going, and like my partner actually has like this crazy Blu-ray connection
yeah,
collection. We call it like the wall, and it's just a wall full of Blu-rays.
yeah,
And there's something really nice. I mean, that's kind of why I always loved reading too. It's like having books, having a library, like there's something really nice about like
mm-hmm,
the tactile aspect of it, Because
yeah,
like ultimately I feel like art is a form of archivism in a way, like we're trying
yeah,
to conserve things.
exactly.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
And I'm the same way as your partner. I love like collecting. Like I stopped now, but like I have like DVDs, Blu-rays, and books because I don't know. I still like the actual tangible, like having it in hand versus like having it on your phone. You know, not the same.
Right. Yeah. It's not the same.
Uh, and what inspired you to create your first movie though? You kind of mentioned a little bit about it, but like your first actual like short film or when was that?
Yeah. Well, um, so I started shooting photos because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I had heard somewhere, Stanley Kubrick, the guy who did like Clockwork
The
Orange and
Shining.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, all those movies. What else did he did this awesome period film that I forget what it's called that's one of my favorite films that he's done. But Stanley Kubrick started out doing photography. He was like shooting for like Life magazine or not
Mm-hmm.
Life. I think it was called Look magazine or something. And he shot
Mm-hmm.
stills for like 5 years. And I was like, okay, so okay, I love photography. Like I'm meeting people who are shooting professionally.
Mm-hmm.
So like, oh, like I should start shooting and maybe eventually like I can be like Stanley Kubrick and become a director, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So so yeah, so I was shooting and then I was kind of, learning a little bit about photography and kind of concurrently just learning more about filmmaking. And then it really switched for me going from photography to filmmaking when I worked at this equipment rental house, like
Mm-hmm.
where, because motion picture equipment is like the nice stuff is really expensive. You've got sets of lenses that are like 150 grand, cameras, like
Wow.
professional cameras, 90 grand. So like a lot of people can't afford them, so they rent them like
Mm-hmm.
at big equipment rental houses. So I got a
Mm-hmm.
job at a rental house working in the camera department. And so there it was like I started seeing people my age like coming in,
Yeah.
DPs, camera assistants, and I was like, whoa, like, okay, there are people my age who are doing this. Like, it just meeting the people who were doing it just
Yeah.
made it so much more like accessible and just like imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like, you know, I had been working in fashion at the time, and then I met these people that were like filmmaking nerds, and like that to me was like, okay, like I found my people,
Yeah.
so I learned more of the tools, right? Because the tools of cinema are different than the tools of photography. Some of them kind of interlap in a way, like overlap, but like it is also different. So like I think when
Yeah.
I started to familiarize myself with the tools, like I know that there are filmmakers out there who are like, I don't know the tools and I'm just here. I have a story. But for some reason, I guess I just kind of felt like I wanted to understand all the elements of filmmaking. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
understand what kind of cameras, like acting, like writing. Because,
Mm-hmm.
the thing about filmmaking is there are so many disciplines associated with it. It's you've got your music, you've got
Yeah.
your set, you've got your production design, you've got your camera, you've got your lighting. So I was kind of like, I just wanted to understand all of those elements.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know that like I said there are people out there that are just like I'm going to make a film, but I feel like I just wasn't very confident. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I want to learn these tools so that I can know about the many departments that come, that join together to make a film. And
Mm-hmm.
so finally, like I started working on set as a camera assistant, and I still work as a camera assistant, and I really love it because you get to kind of hear you're close to the action all the time. Like
Yeah.
you're by the director, you're by the cinematographer, and you're hearing how the directors direct. And so I was camera assisting, I was photo assisting, I was shooting, and then I think what made me want to make my film was really having the time because at that point it was COVID. And so
Yeah.
I had moved back to San Diego and I would, life had kind of stopped because I was working in production and of course production stopped during COVID.
Yeah.
And so there was no work. And so I joined a writers group with a bunch of other friends and we started workshopping scripts. And so I started working on my script. It was originally going to be about a bunch of kids, like teenagers, just kind of like living by the beach in Tijuana and playas and kind of just like partying. And it
Yeah.
was I think it was about the desire for escapism. And it was
Okay.
going to be about a young woman who like gets involved with this party house and like falls in love with someone, but really she has to go and face her life, right? And she's
Yeah.
delayed. And I'm working on the script and it's like it's okay. It's not super interesting. And then I developed some procrastination, writer's block, I guess.
Yeah.
And really, I was just like, I don't know. I just didn't feel like writing. And so I got really into cults. Like I just became obsessed with cults, like
Mm-hmm.
Scientology, that Leah Remini Netflix
Yeah.
show was out,
It's
and like
interesting.
Nexium, that trial was happening, the vow had just come out. And so and I grew up really religious, which has got its own kind of cult-like
Yeah.
tendency. So, like I was kind of fascinated by this idea of like mind control, coercive control. And then at the same time, like I've always been interested in, the female experience, the experience of being a woman, obviously me being a woman. So I was interested in exploring this idea of like toxic relationships. And so then kind of once I had that cult idea, I was like, whoa, what if these people living by the ocean are in a cult, And
Yeah.
so then then it was like, okay, um, they're in a cult, and like how can we mirror this idea of like toxic abusive relationships and also place it in a cult like situation. And so yeah, so then it kind of became a lot more easy to kind of develop the story from there, just
Yeah.
because like there was just so much more texture to it. Um, and then, COVID started ending, and basically my writing group was like, all right, when are you going to make that film? And I was like, oh yeah, when am I going to make that film? I mean, and this film had been years in the making. Like
Yeah.
I left my job because I used to do marketing. I left my marketing job in 2017, and I was like,
Okay.
I'm going to learn how to do film. I don't know how. So it was like 2017. We shot it in 2021, 18, 19, 2021. It was 4 years of me like
Wow.
wanting to make a film.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the concept developed over 4 years. Really, the concept developed over probably like a year,
Mm-hmm.
maybe less. But the desire to make a film was like 4 years in the making, maybe more, because
Yeah.
I just once, like I said, I started thinking about filmmaking. I was like, well, maybe I could make a film. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
That's pretty cool. And for those listening in, I don't think we said the name, but it's Like Honey is the short film
Yes,
that we're talking about.
right.
Um, and now that now that I know kind of a little bit about your background, like being a photographer, it kind of makes sense too. Like because I rewatched it, like your film. Thank you for the link, by the way.
Oh, totally.
Um,
Thanks for watching it.
yeah, it was cool because I always like seeing it twice at least because it gives you like a new perspective after you already seen the story. Like you'll catch other things that you didn't catch the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I kind of really liked is the way you shot the film too. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it was like I would call it like a dreamy filter. Like it looks like kind of like the color of the actual film makes it seem kind of like a dream or kind of like a fantasy. I don't know if it was intentional, but I just got that vibe from like the
Mm-hmm.
cinematography of how you filmed it. I don't know if that's something you did intentionally.
Oh, totally. I mean, um, yeah, I've always been, I think right now stylistically, but actually most of the directors and filmmakers that I like are more like naturalistic,
Mm-hmm.
they prefer kind of naturalistic cinematography.
Yeah.
And I feel like I try to convey that in my photographic work. So we didn't have a huge budget for this. Everybody
Yeah.
kind of came on and threw their equipment in. And so our cinematographer, Ray Gallardo, he brought his Sony FS7, and we didn't really have a lens budget.
Mm-hmm.
And he had wanted to shoot it anamorphic,
Oh,
but
okay.
then I did a scout, and he has like an anamorphic, like it's like a TV lens that kind of it's it's multiple components. Basically, it's like a
Yeah.
budget friendly anamorphic lens.
Mm-hmm.
And he had wanted to shoot it anamorphic, and I was like, okay, sure. But then I did a scout at the location, and I was just like, no, anamorphic is not right for this at all. Like I had the lens with me, and he wasn't able to come, and I had a
Mm-hmm.
camera, like a stills camera, and I was just kind of viewing, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, 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 this is not right at all, because it's about a cult. It's about a young woman's kind of interior experience. She's kind of leaving this abusive relationship, and she goes from one abusive relationship to another, which is a coercive cult, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted it to feel really intimate and naturalistic. And so what we ended up doing was our DP Ray ended up getting this really cool 35 millimeter. It was like a Chinese brand lens that has like a really dreamy look to it.
Yeah.
I think it's a stills lens. And then we used my stills lenses, like literally my Nikon D stills lenses that I use for my cameras.
Mm-hmm.
I got an adapter, and we just threw it on the camera, and we just use those stills lenses. So it's like really great what you can do when you're just like, well, I just want to do this and I'm just going to do it. However, like we didn't rent any crazy lenses. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. If you have the budget, by all
Yeah.
means, rent the lenses, but
Yeah.
we didn't have the budget and we kind of just made it work. And yeah, I think the goal, we ended up shooting in 4:3 once again because like wanting to create that like that close kind of intimate atmosphere.
Yeah.
And just keeping it really like naturalistic. I mean, I think probably one of the effects that you experienced was like we shot it all handheld, like actually handheld. And
Okay.
uh, now that I've started to DP myself, and like
Mm-hmm.
now that I've started to shoot, I'm like, oh, handheld is like tiring.
Yeah, I
My
bet.
heart really goes out to the DP. I'm
Yeah.
like, God, no wonder he was so sweaty. But yeah, I really wanted that handheld look because I wanted it to feel really like naturalistic and um yeah, just naturalistic and intimate.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
as you say.
Yeah, I really liked the lens and the way you guys filmed it. It was pretty cool. And then I also think like the cast was great too. Like I call her like the recruiter of the cult, like Abril was I think her name, like
Oh yes.
the right, like
Camarena
and then
del Toro.
yeah, she was good. And then of course Vanya, the main character, and then the one that I think really like stole the show for me was the cult leader,
Jose
Joaquin.
Mar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he was really good. Because you can he like he didn't even have to talk honestly. Like just he had like the charm of a cult leader and just like
Right.
but also creepy in a sense where you knew it was like something was
Totally.
off. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
how was that like the casting? Like I think I read on your website, but for those listening in who might not know, like how did the casting start and how did you guys pick all these people?
Yeah, totally. Well, once again, like it was the pressure of my friends being like, so when are you gonna shoot?
Yeah.
So like it's 2021 and life is coming back together again. And actually it was my partner was a big motivate. He was like, so when are you gonna shoot your script? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. Like when am I? So I think I set the date, the
Uh-huh.
shooting date, probably in like April or like March. So
Okay.
I started casting probably in like March and we shot in May.
Oh wow.
So it went really quick. And to be quite honest with you, I found everybody, every single person on Facebook.
Oh
I
wow,
just
that's crazy.
I just put out like there's a lot of Facebook groups out there. And a lot of people are like, I hate Facebook. I don't use it. I keep it because I don't use it all the time, but for like Facebook groups, it's super helpful. There's a lot of like production groups out there, casting, like a lot of um really cool groups where you can just post. So I just started posting like I just made a little flyer being like these are the roles I have. This
Mm-hmm.
is the demographic. This is kind of a brief, description of the role. Email me your reel and your resume to this email. And I did it all virtually because COVID was still kind of happening. And
Mm-hmm.
so I met up with my producer at his office. His name's Chris Holloway. He has a production company called Infrastructure Productions in San Diego. So we got together and we just did Zoom auditions
Oh wow.
first. And yeah, I know. It's crazy to think about. But yeah, I just like met with some people on Zoom. And I really don't think that I even had a second meeting with people. It's not like I was like, now let me meet you in person. I think it was literally just like, she's right, he's right.
Yeah.
And the thing about Josemar, who plays Joaquin, is we had known each other for a couple of years. I had never met him in person, but like
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Tijuana and like the art scene, the art scene in Tijuana, it's very super vibrant. There's a lot going on. People are
Mm-hmm.
really just active and down to collaborate. And so we had mutual friends, but we had never met. We had been messaging each other because we were like, he's a musician and he like does photography, but mostly he does music. And so I thought he was cool and I was like, I'd love to shoot photos of you sometime. And I was working on a little personal documentary and I was like, I'd love to interview you. So I
Yeah.
knew that I wanted to work with him somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, I just knew I wanted him to be Joaquin. Like once I kind of saw photos of him, I'm like, he's perfect.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and Camarena came from who plays Abril, the cult recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
She's from Ensenada. She hit me up on
Okay.
Facebook. Yvette Russo, who plays Vanya,
Uh-huh.
she was San Diego based. She's not anymore.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean everybody was locals from either San Diego or Tijuana or surrounding areas, and it was
Okay.
all virtually cast, and I think we did one kind of read through like
Uh-huh.
rehearsal like a week before shooting, and
Okay,
then
I was
that
about to ask, like, how was that? Was that in person or was it all virtual too? Like the doing the
that was
read?
in person. That was in
Okay,
person.
okay.
And it's funny because looking back, I'm like, we really didn't even rehearse that much. We just read through the script once and then we
Uh-huh.
read through it again and kind of like talked about, we kind of talked about like character. Although that's not true. I did meet up with the leads. So Yvette, who plays Vanya,
Mm-hmm.
Joaquin, who plays Josemar, who plays Joaquin, and Camarena, who plays Abril. I did meet
Mm-hmm.
up with all three of them separately, but especially Yvette, who plays Vanya. We met up a couple times to talk about her character and like how she saw her character and just to talk
Mm-hmm.
about that kind of thing beforehand.
Yeah.
So I met with the leads. But once again, we really didn't do any rehearsals. We kind of just talked about like what you how do you see your character like, and then just like spitballing ideas like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
these are gestures that your character might have, which would make sense because like, she's a like, especially working with Gamarena was really fun because like her character is like the cult recruiter. She's like kind
Mm-hmm.
of quirky, like she's kind of
Yeah.
like the manic pixie dream girl. Or like a big reference I had for her was, have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I seen it once, but a while ago.
Yeah. So Margaret Qualley's character, who's like the brunette who wears like the little knit, she's like the weird brunette who's like part of the cult and she hangs out with Brad Pitt. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want her to be like that. Like she just
Okay.
had that vibe. So that
Yeah.
was like really fun. But yeah, basically it was all kind of virtual and through Facebook.
That's great. That's good. Did they improvise lines or was it all like kind of like they memorized? Because the way you make it seem, it wasn't a lot of rehearsal. So I mean, they did a great job with the way they
There,
delivered the lines.
yeah, totally. There were lines. I wrote the script,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing about how I felt with screenwriting at the time, and I think I still mostly feel that way, is
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm writing this script and I'm writing these characters, but like, I'm not an actor, right? And
Yeah.
so it's my opinion that if an actor has a suggestion and I agree with it, I'm pretty open to like changing stuff if it seems more natural. Um, because it's hard to try to be like, write for multiple characters, and have it feel like true to the character. So, and all actors are different. Like I had some actors who were like, I say my lines and I interpret the lines. And then I had other characters who like did a lot of improv. And I really enjoyed that. At times it was kind of hard though in the edit because being that it was my first film, like there was a lot that I didn't think about. So like there were times when like people would improvise certain lines and then I would be like, oh, this dialogue doesn't match. For the most part though, it worked out. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And what was like your favorite scene to shoot for the film?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that I had two favorite scenes. Okay, three. I know you only asked for one, but okay, my first favorite scene was when she drinks the tea, right? She has like this tea that she drinks. The cult invites her to drink the tea. I really liked doing that because it was challenging. Um, I've said this before, but like for my first film, it was kind of ambitious that I had so many actors to work with, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
it was fun, but it was challenging and it was a little bit overwhelming. But I really like how that scene turned out, and I loved the location. I really liked that whole scene, especially because it really like there's a lot visually going on that I really enjoyed. And then my second favorite stuff to shoot was she takes some drugs with the cult leader,
Yeah.
and that was really fun for me because I'm still super interested in fashion. I love fashion. I shoot fashion stuff in
Mm-hmm.
photography. And so I wanted a moment where it could be like a fashion thing in a way, just like kind of
Yeah.
like vibey with some music. So that was kind of just like finding a bunch of beautiful shots outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have to worry about narrative or anything really because we were just getting cool, like vibey B-roll.
Mm-hmm.
And then my third favorite thing to shoot, it was my favorite, but it was also my least favorite. It was when they do the crazy meditation scene and there
Oh
was a lot
yeah.
of screaming and stuff. I loved shooting it because the actors went crazy. Like it was just, I mean, I was there in the room directing, but I heard that like people were gathering outside downstairs because there was so much yelling. Like there was a crowd, like what's going on in there? But it was also really stressful to shoot.
Yeah. And what would you say is like the most difficult part of doing a film, like a short film, and what's the most rewarding?
Hmm. I think the most difficult part of shooting a short film is the fact that there are so many moving parts that kind of come together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it can be really stressful. I have never felt more stimulated in my life than when I'm directing a film because there's a lot of there's just a lot of moving parts coming together. And then it's exciting to be on set and to be shooting. But to me, one of the biggest challenges of directing is really being in love with what's happening on the screen, you know, like in
Mm-hmm.
front of you. I think that the excitement of production can make it so that you'll be like, "Oh, this looks great." But then you go back to the edit and you're like, "That didn't look great. Like, why did we shoot that?" And it's like so kind of like okay, to summarize, the most difficult thing I think is allowing yourself to be fully present in that moment and checking in and being like, do I love this or do we need to change something? And then being
Mm-hmm.
willing to like take the time to change it because you know when you're shooting, like time is money, you know, like we got to get our day, we got to get our shots. So
Yeah.
like kind of have to make those decisions like all right, I'm into this or nope, I'm not. Let's scrap it and let's find something that we do like. And that can be very difficult. Um and then the most rewarding part is having a film at the end, like actually having a film. I mean, I never thought that I would be able to make a film, and now I've made two, and like it's really cool because
Yeah.
so much work goes into it. The work of so many people goes into it. I think maybe that might be the most rewarding thing is like
Mm-hmm.
collaborating with so many different people because like yeah, you have an idea, but really it's like you get to really see people bring their best to something and like it's really cool. It's really cool to
Yeah.
make something with a bunch of people.
That's cool. Well, be proud of yourself because that's a huge thing. Like you followed through because not a lot of people do that, you know?
Oh, thank you.
uh,
Yeah, it's hard and I understand why they don't, but follow
yeah.
through. It's worth
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And as far as the film too, what I noticed, and I don't know if it was intentional as well, but like and you filmed in Las Playas, so like obviously the beach, I felt like it was also a character of the film. At least for
Hmm.
me, I thought about it because it kind of showed like the beach. You think is like a tranquil place, like just a place where you can kind of leave all your what you call it like tus penas there, you know, and like
Sure.
I feel
Yeah.
like that was kind of like the vibe I got, and then but it also can be like it can also be your worst nightmare type of thing, kind of like where she joined the cult and stuff like that. So I don't know if
Sure.
was the beach intentionally like in the shots or was it just because it was the scenery.
Well, you know, I grew up in Playas,
Hmm.
and I love it there. To me, it's like it's like where I'm from. And I knew that I wanted Playas to be part of the film. I knew I wanted to shoot in Playas, and I personally love the ocean.
Yeah, me too.
I'm super drawn to it. It's like it's awe-inspiring.
Hmm.
And I just felt like, you know, when you can bring in an element like that into a film, it just adds so much more. Um, I think it's great that you felt like the beach was like kind of a character or something. I think that's really cool. I hadn't
Yeah.
actually thought about that, but I think that for me, like the idea of the ocean, I think kind of was like in a way reflecting that kind of escapism. Because I think one of the things I was trying to say was like it's easy to want to escape and it's
Hmm.
normal to want to escape. Life is hard. Escaping seems easy, but like it's not, you know, it will come back. You know, you will suffer from wanting to escape and not facing reality, you know,
That's
like
true.
there's always a pro and con to everything. But so yeah, so I think I mean when you bring in, you know, elements of the natural world, there's all sorts of meaning that can be derived. And also it just looks beautiful, you know? I'm like,
Yeah.
I just like that I just want as beautiful of an image as possible. So yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. And then I also the other standout scene for me was the crying scene when Vanya takes like the tea and then
Oh yeah.
she starts crying and then everybody kind of hovers over her and starts crying with her. And I don't know if
Mhm.
it reminded me a lot of like Midsummer, where they start
Ooh,
crying with the everybody like starts feeling like the same pain. I don't. It was like a cold
yeah.
thing, so it reminded me of that scene.
Oh,
And I just
cool.
wanted to mention that to you. Um,
I actually haven't seen Midsommar because I don't
okay.
like horror films. Um, but I've heard interesting things about it, so I'm glad that, it stood out to you.
Yeah, yeah. No, you have to check it out. It's not that one's not too scary, at least for me. It wasn't. And it's ironic that you're actually on a hip hop and horror horror podcast and you're not a
It
fan of
really is.
horror.
That's why my background is red. I
I
wanted
know,
to
right?
kind of like
um,
vibe.
and I saw on your website too. You're working on your other short film, Angel. Is there anything you can talk about, or you can share what it's about?
Yeah, sure. So that film is we have one pickup day to go and then really trying to get that finished sooner rather than later. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was inspired by, I'll be 100% honest, I was applying to some grants last year, wanting to get financing for projects, and I didn't get any grants. I didn't get any money
Mm.
basically, and I was really bummed out. And so I was like, man, well, whenever I'm feeling sad, if I go out and make something, I feel better. And
Mhm.
so I was like, I'm gonna go out, and I hadn't shot anything in 2022. I was just editing, doing
Mhm.
post on projects. So I was like, I need to shoot something. And so I was like, well, what can I make with what I have available to me? Once again, being like, what can we do?
Yeah.
So I had access to a public storage facility,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, I have a public storage facility, but especially, okay, now I remember. So my little sister, both of my sisters are really into sewing and like costuming. They just really like
Okay.
it.
That's cool.
And my little sister, a couple Halloweens ago, she made this crazy angel outfit. So like biblically, angels have different descriptions like in the Bible. And there's this one angel called an Onephim. Basically, it's like the way it's described in the Bible is like kind of horrifying. Like it's got like eyes all over, and it's got wings, and it's got like the face of a dragon. It's like
Yeah.
super crazy. And so my little sister designed this angel outfit, and she showed it to me one Halloween, and I'm like, whoa, what the hell? Like this is crazy. And I was like, okay, well, we need to make a film around this. Like this is an amazing costume. So that's where it came from.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's about the film is about a young woman who, she's kind of troubled. She's actually living at the storage facility, so she's got some stuff going on,
Mm.
and she kind of has this like surrealistic encounter with this angel.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, we shot that in 2 days, but really it'll be 3 days.
Uh-huh.
And I directed it and shot it, which
That's cool.
was a lot of work.
Yeah.
I had fun doing it. I would do it again. But it's a lot to shoot and direct, I will say.
Mhm.
But I really wanted to experience shooting because I'm also interested in shooting. I
Mhm.
really like shooting. I mean, shooting photos. I just love being behind the camera. And so I just wanted to create an experience for myself where I could also shoot. And so I was like, great, I'll shoot and direct this film. I will say though, it was a little cringe to like look at the slate and see my name on the director and cinematographer. I was like, this is like really a little narcissistic. I felt uncomfortable. But yeah, so that's the film. And we're hoping to I'd like to have it picture lock by, what if we're in April? I don't know, May would be great.
Yeah.
um, and then there's music and audio like mixing and all that. But
Mhm.
yeah, the nice thing is that I've edited now, so I know how to edit. The thing is with Like Honey, I didn't know how to edit, and so there
Mhm.
was a lot of trial and error in the editing process for me. It was very
Yeah.
painful. But yeah.
And how long is this one gonna be? Do you know yet, or you're still in the process of editing?
Well, the fun thing about this one is that literally there's no dialogue. There's one line. It's
Mhm.
completely like visual. My goal here was to just experiment with visual storytelling and telling a story in that way. So
Uh-huh.
ideally, I think it'd be 10 minutes or less.
Okay.
The script itself is like 4 pages long,
Oh, okay.
but I don't think it's going to be, because it's, once again, there's lots of visual stuff happening. So
Okay.
it's hopefully 10 minutes or less.
Okay. It sounds really interesting. I like the concept. I know you say you're not a horror fan, but you should check out. It's called The Prophecy. It came out in 1990 something with like Christopher
Ooh,
Walken, but it talks
ooh,
about it's pretty much about angels and all that stuff, and it's cool because there's a quote in there where this guy says like, have you ever thought what an angel actually looks like? Because when God sends somebody to get killed, they send angels. So it's like, what do they really like look like? And in the
ooh.
movie, actually, the angels they're having like a war. So it's like Gabriel, which is my name is Gabriela. So he's like
Oh,
the
nice.
evil one, and it's Christopher Walken who plays him, and then it's Archangel Michael who's like on the human side. So it's a pretty good. It was like a trilogy, but like the first film is the best one out of all of them.
Cool. I mean, I've warmed up to horror a little more because my partner likes it.
Yeah,
I just grew up really religious, and so we were told, like
like evil
Satan,
things are gonna
so
happen.
yeah, so even now, like I kind of try to stay away just
Yeah.
because of my superstitions,
Uh
but
huh.
I'm open to stuff that's like a little more chill. I will
Yeah.
say I am super interested in films and stories that deal with God and divinity.
Mm-hmm.
So that
You'll
sounds
probably
really
dig that
cool.
one. Yeah, you'll probably dig that one then.
I'm gonna write
Cause yeah,
that
it's
down.
funny because I wasn't like they weren't super religious, but my grandma of all of us, it was probably my abuelita,
Mm,
and she's the one that actually kind of got me into horror, which is the ironic
really?
part. Yeah,
That's really
yeah,
funny.
because she was always going to church. She was like a super like Catholic, but uh, we didn't really have parental control. Like I know other
Sure.
friends I had that
They were
like
like, you
same.
can watch whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, well, watch whatever's
Same.
on TV.
Same.
um,
No censorship.
yeah, seriously. And but I had friends too that were like super religious or like other religions, and like their parents wouldn't even let them like listen to like explicit lyrics or watch any films. So I was like, oh man, I was kind of lucky, I guess, in a sense. But
Nice.
but
That's cool.
you'll be fine if you watch a horror movie.
Okay, good.
um, and I was gonna say too, on your website, you also mentioned that you have like your indie production company, So Blur. Can you tell
Mhm,
us a little bit
mhm.
about that?
Yeah, totally. So I started that because once again, a lot of my stuff is at this time like self-produced. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I just wanted to create this umbrella under which I could self-produce my own stuff. But yeah, so basically it's my production company. A lot of the stuff, the films that I do are come out of that. We also
Mm.
do zines just
Oh.
because like I I started exploring myself creatively through photography. I mean, I love photography. I will never not shoot photos.
Mm-hmm.
And I was introduced to zines in like 2015, I think, at the LA Zine Fest. And I just always knew I was like, I want to make a zine. Like, I don't know how, but I want to make a zine. And so
Yeah.
I started making zines just to like share my photography work. And yeah, so Blur also does zines. We have a
That's
zine
cool.
coming out for Like Honey, actually, which will be online soon, and I'm stoked to share about it. And yeah, I mean, I think the company's small right now, but my intention
Yeah.
with Sobler is for that to be like to grow
Mm-hmm.
and to continue to be kind of the umbrella through which we release my projects, but also, I would love to like be, support and feature like artists and creators that are like women of color and specifically like BIPOC people
Yeah.
because it's I I feel like I'm lucky now that my parents are kind of like, well, she's gonna do whatever she wants, so we're gonna support her. But like in the beginning, they were like, "What are you doing?" And it's just it's more normal now, I think. But when I was growing up, there wasn't really much support to pursue any kind of art.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, there are a lot of really talented like women of color out there and like BIPOC people. So yeah, I think that's ultimately the goal for Sobler, just to be like a place where um curating like shows, photography shows, but also
Yeah.
like films, small projects like that. And, we gotta live. So I also like through that do like different projects, just different film projects for different companies.
Okay, cool. That's cool. I'll probably have to hit you up for like photography or something. We got to do
Oh,
something together.
totally. Yeah, do. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but this is like, okay, well, that's a Goodwill bag, but this is like the equipment room. So like there's just a
Yeah.
bunch of gear in here.
That's
This
so
is
cool.
a lot of the Sobler gear.
Nice. Yeah, definitely be in touch for that. And
Awesome.
actually, before we stop talking about the short film, one thing I did want to ask, and I think you answered it at the Latino Film Festival, but for those tuning in today,
Sure.
your film, like Honey, it kind of leaves it open ended, right? Like where Vanya
Mm,
gets a phone call, and so it's left for interpretation. Either she left to either go back with her boyfriend that she broke up with, or technically her husband, I guess, because they got married.
sure.
Um, or she stayed, right? So is there going to be like a feature film for this, or is it just kind of like left like that at the ending?
You know, I know a lot of people a lot of directors, like the strategy is create a proof of concept short film and then show it to people and get funding for a feature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was never really my intention for this
Okay.
short. Um, I'm not opposed to it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it,
Yeah.
you know. It's just but yeah, not really. It's kind of just a
Okay.
short. However, if someone was like, I really want to make this into a feature, well, I'll give you money, I'd be
Yeah.
like, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
the aesthetic that we were able to create and the world we were able to create was one that I really love. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we had such a small budget. So I'm just thinking like what could we do with like some resources, you know? Like
Yeah.
I had a lot of really talented people come and just my friend Worthy Dye, like shout out to her. She did all the costume designing and like I know I don't know. I just know that we could do something really amazing,
Yeah.
but that's not something I'm actively pushing right now. I kind of have other feature ideas that I'm
Okay.
working on. But yeah, wouldn't say no.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
And then when we met, you had mentioned, I have a bad memory, but you said something about you had a connection to the hip hop world because you worked somewhere, and I can't remember where that was.
Oh yeah, totally. So the company that I was working at where I kind of got into production is this company called Dope. They're a
Oh
streetwear
yeah.
company. Although I don't think they make clothing anymore. I think now they make like marijuana accessories just because they were
Okay.
bought. But when I was
Mm.
working for them, I was working for them from 2015 to 2014 to 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing marketing and first I started out as marketing associate, just kind of learning what that means and supporting marketing.
Yeah.
And then I took over my boss's job and became the marketing director. And so it was a really small brand. So it was a lot like, you know, overseeing and at times shooting like e-com photos and like dealing with people who needed imagery and assets, like photos
Mm-hmm.
basically. So
Yeah.
that was kind of how I got into production because I had to start like researching photographers to shoot our brand photography. I
Yeah.
started meeting them, I started producing our shoots, and I was like, oh wow, like this isn't that hard.
Yeah.
Literally, you just need a camera and some lights. Sometimes we didn't even use lights, really it was just
Yeah.
working with models and putting some clothes on them and making them look cool. So yeah, so I was at Dope for 2 years. And then while I was at Dope, the owner also developed a brand called Minimal.la, and I think they still exist. They make like jeans and stuff
Mm-hmm.
for men. So yeah, that was a really formative and fun experience because I kind of growing up, like my favorite kind of music was it still is, but a lot of like indie
Okay.
classic rock,
Mm-hmm.
psych rock, lo-fi rock, like just rock,
Mm-hmm.
grunge. So I was always kind of like an indie rock kind of rock kid. And then I started working at Dope. I started getting into streetwear, which is like really fun, just really
Yeah.
fun fashion. It's like fringe fashion, really out there. And then it was kind of inspired by hip hop culture, basically. So like
Yeah.
everybody there was a fan of hip hop and rap. And like
Mm-hmm.
I liked Kanye,
Yeah.
like I liked Kanye.
Yeah.
Um, I miss the old Kanye.
Yeah.
I liked Kanye, but then it was really cool because I was able to get exposure into the world of hip hop and rap. And so like
Yeah.
or when To Pimp a Butterfly dropped, like we had a listening party at the
That's
office. It was
cool.
playing all day. Like when the D'Angelo, I think it's Black Messiah album dropped, same thing. Like there
Mm-hmm.
was just a lot of collaborations happening with a lot of hip hop artists. And
Mm-hmm.
we also would send them clothes. And we had people come in and get free clothes. Like I met Post Malone before he was big. Like he was like a little teenager when he came into
Oh
our
wow.
office. We did a collaboration with Nas. And I met Nas. Like I
That's
just got
dope.
really exposed to like the rap and hip hop world and
Uh-huh.
developed a real love and appreciation for it. I mean, I'm a huge Kendrick Lamar fan because of working at Dope. Like
Yeah.
I remember hearing Kendrick in college, but being like, oh, I'm not into rap. And then like hearing To Pimp a Butterfly for the first time and like crying because it's
Yeah.
really fucking poetry. It's art.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Um, a huge fan. So it was really cool to like have that experience because also my parents grew up in LA like in the 80s and 70s, and my
Mm-hmm.
dad grew up in South Central, so like he was like a Tupac fan,
Oh,
like
okay, yeah.
basically big Tupac fan.
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of never got it. And then after, I don't know, it was cool to like have a connection, a deeper connection with my roots because I was born in LA, even though I didn't grow up
Okay.
there. Like it was kind of cool to like have that connection with my roots again, just
Mm-hmm.
like seeing life differently and kind of understanding, what it must be like, maybe a little bit,
Yeah.
just being surrounded by that environment.
That's pretty cool. It's cool. It looks like you've gotten like a wide variety of like experience. So it's kind of cool to like hear your journey. Um,
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was interesting. I
yeah.
remember I studied comparative literature in undergrad, so like, I learned French. I lived abroad in France. I
Oh
studied
wow.
literature and
Yeah.
philosophy. And I remember like a friend of mine was like, "Why are you working in streetwear?" And I'm like, "Honestly, I don't know, but it's fun." Like I looking back, like I mean, I definitely encourage anyone, like, if you feel like trying something out, just try it. Cause like you only live once, like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't end up staying in streetwear and in that industry because once again, I quit my job there and I remember telling my boss, like, yeah, I'm gonna pursue filmmaking. By the way, do you have any connections in filmmaking? And he's like, no, I don't. I'm sorry, but if I could, I would help you. But I mean, that's why I left that job because
Okay.
ultimately I wanted to pursue filmmaking and I didn't know how I was gonna get there, but I was like, well, if I don't leave this job now, I'm never gonna do it. Looking back, I maybe I could have done it while I was still working there, but you're young and dramatic, so yeah.
It's still inspiring though, like how far you've like gone. You already have your first short like film and all that, and then you're already on your second. So, and what's like what this is the last kind of question I like to ask before we get out of here.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind,
Ooh,
either
that's a
personally
big
or creatively? Yeah.
totally. Yeah, what a great question. Loaded. I mean, if I can, I would like to make as many films as possible because I think that in order to get good at something, you have to kind of do it a lot. I have a lot of ideas and stories that I want to tell. But I suppose like as far as like legacy, I think I just would love to support people who want to make art and film and help people. Like a lot of people helped me. I mean, I didn't go to film school. Like I said, I studied literature. I didn't know where to start. So literally how I came into this industry was sending cold emails and being like, I love your work. Would you like to get coffee? Like it was a lot of that. And I actually still do that now, but a lot of people helped me, and just gave me advice. And I would, and I just like to say, like, to this to people, like, if there's any way I can help you, like, reach out, like, let me know, because so many people helped me and they went to coffee with me and they told me about how they did it. And every conversation that I had with others it would inspire me and give me the resolve to keep going in my journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess just like, if anything, I would say just letting people know that if you have a desire to do something, and even though you don't know how you're going to do it, like try your best to put one foot in front of the other and ask people for help, like because I don't know, my parents, I'm really close to my family and my mom is always sending me these inspirational quotes, but like, I think that if you have a dream inside and it doesn't go away, like I think that's the universe telling you to make it happen,
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like I would want that to be my legacy, I guess, just
Yeah.
letting people know that like if you want to make art, go and make it. And like if you need help doing it, like ask people for help. Like the world wants to support you, in your dreams.
Yeah, no, that's really dope. And you are doing that. So thank you so much for being here. And
Thanks so
letting
much
us know
for
your
having
story.
me.
No problem.
Yeah,
Is
I
there anything
really
else you wanted to shout out before you get out of here?
um I mean, what else? I guess just if anyone wants to collaborate, that reach out. And you know, I know that at some point, a lot of people, actors, directors, like when they have the means, they will often create a fund or some sort of thing to like help people. So that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely something that I would like to do as well down the line. But I guess just reiterating, like, if I can help you in any way, even if it's just giving you some advice or telling you what I did, like, reach out and yeah, I'm always looking for models and actors. I still like shooting all the time. So if anyone sees this and they want to shoot, definitely hit me up. Check out my website, NicoleValencia.com. Check me out on Instagram at Zicole. It's kind of weird. It's Zikohl, but I'm always looking for people to shoot and collaborate with. And yeah, if you're a creative person and you just want to talk, like, please reach out.
Cool. And where are you based right now? Are you in LA or are you in SD?
Yeah, I actually go between LA and San Diego. It kind of
Okay.
just depends. Like right now I'm in San Diego, but yeah, if I have a lot of work over there, I'll just stay there. I'll be in East Hollywood. So I kind of just go between both. And I'm in San Diego right now though. So if
Okay.
you're in
Perfect.
San
Yeah.
Diego, hit me up.
All right. Perfect. Yeah. So I have your Instagram here and then I'll have it on the description too for those listening in. And obviously, thank you again. Thank you to those tuning in. Maybe you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel. Also follow Nicole. And then, yeah, thank you guys. All right.
Thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. I really appreciate you.
Hey, no problem. Thank you. Have a good one.